Today I'm going to be comparing the Cadex Ascent HD FPV video system versus the Beta FPV Artlynk HD FPV video system, specifically the image quality differences and penetration between the two. These are both budget HD FPV video systems, and in these tests the Ascent comes with the ready-to-fly Protos package from Cadex, and the Artlynk comes with the ready-to-fly Aquila 2 package from Beta FPV. I'm choosing an indoor location because the lighting is consistent and we have text on the walls, which is good for detail comparisons. The building is made of solid brick for the most part, also making it ideal for penetration testing, but I will show some outdoor footage as well. Starting off with the Ascent system in 1080p 60 fps, and the image is blurry when it comes to distant text. It's only when you fly closer that you can read the text. There's also a constant grain on the image, which is present when flying outdoors as well. I think this is caused by a sharpening filter set too high. You can't focus the camera any better. There's also sometimes a haloing artifact present as well in particular scenarios. Artlynk and Ascent are using very similar hardware, and while you can't read the text clearly with Artlynk either, it's a less blurred image in the DVR compared to Ascent. Artlynk is more blurred in the goggles than shown on the DVR due to a slight ghosting, perhaps caused by the lens array in the goggles. But despite Artlynk looking better image-wise in the DVR and slightly better through the goggles than Ascent, it's actually Ascent that looks closer to the naked eye in the sports hall. There's a lot of detail lost with Artlynk on the wood grain of the walls, for example, and while the focus of Artlynk is better in the center of the screen, there is a lot of blur and distortion on the outer edge of the image due to the wide-angle lens of the camera. Ascent seems to have slightly less of this when it comes to the wide-angle lens. Ascent also seems to have an out-of-control white balance. There's a lot of green colours on the image, which then quickly flashes through the entire colour range constantly. This is something that can be corrected in firmware updates. Whether they do that or not is another thing, as it's something that I have seen with other Cadex cameras. Specifically, the Cadex Nebula Pro used to do this with the DJI Cadex Vista Lite. It seems the Artlynk system has a much more stable white balance in comparison. Generally, with a good signal, Artlynk is smoother in the goggles compared to Ascent. Ascent has these slight stutters all of the time in 1080p. You can switch Ascent to 720p and the stutters don't seem as bad, but they are still there. It's not something that stops you flying and feels like it's adding latency, but you definitely notice it. On to penetration testing, and Ascent has the best low bitrate handling. There is plenty of warning when your video signal is getting low, identified by first a degrading overall image and then losing the size of the video like a more aggressive DJI focus mode. The current Ascent video transmitter has a max power of 100 milliwatts, which is very low power for digital FPV. And on the goggle side, the antennas are patch antennas, meaning that they have better range than the omnidirectional antennas found on the Artlynk goggles, but this requires some experience because if you have your head pointed at the ground or in a different direction, the video feed will have next to no low signal warnings and your video will just freeze. In contrast, the Artlynk video transmitter is 200 milliwatts, so double the power of Ascent, but as power is not linear, it's not double the range. In fact, coupled up with the omnidirectional antennas on the Artlynk system, the range is almost the same as Ascent, with Artlynk choosing to keep the image quality of the entire image for much longer, but with the massive downside of just dropping frames and intermittent jerkiness and freezing of the image to the point where there is no warning whatsoever when your range will run out. Now, watching back the DVR of both of these systems, Artlynk looks like it's outperforming Ascent, but in reality the usable range of both is about the same. Artlynk looks better because the image doesn't seem to degrade anywhere near as much as Ascent does, but it actually needs to degrade to retain the stable link, and that's not something that you will see on this DVR footage. It's something you will feel through the sticks of the model as it becomes disconnected and laggy. I'm only able to keep the Artlynk model flying because it's a small model flying very slow in a controlled indoor environment. I would be extremely worried putting Artlynk on a fast 5-inch model where the quad could have moved many meters between the frames freezing. I think this is a huge problem for Artlynk at the moment. If this VTX was able to output 1 watt, I wouldn't be too concerned about the way it's handling low signal. But for now, the 200 milliwatt VTX is all we have, with no indication that there's going to be anything else coming, and it needs to have better low signal warnings than this if we were to use it on a bigger model. Outside, with a building between me and the quad, the results were the same, with Ascent going into focus mode around 120 meters away, and Artlynk doing its jerky freezing image thing at the same distance. I don't think the range of Ascent or Artlynk is surprising or amazing for what they are. For example, the analog Tiny Hawk Lite, which costs half the price of the Ascent-based Protoss and the Artlynk-based Beta FPV Aquila 2, has no problem retaining signal where the Artlynk and Ascent fails. Yes, the analog quad can output 400 milliwatts and the image is nowhere near as good, but it's $180 for this package compared to $359 for the other two. The same can be said for the now 7-year-old DJI O2 system, which you can't buy new anymore, but you can often pick it up for cheaper than these new systems second-hand. And there's not a single glitch with O2 around this brickwork. I can fly the entire complex without a single jitter, which is why, to this day, DJI O2 is still my favourite HD FPV system. And despite O2 only being 720p, I can read the text on the walls, where you can't with either of these 1080p budget systems. It does look like the entire room is blown out slightly with DJI O2, but it's actually just the great dynamic range of the O2 camera that's causing that. I know I often go on about how DJI O2 is my favourite, and yet O3 and O4 can outperform it image-wise, but there are lots of reasons why O2 is better in my opinion. It can be picked up for really cheap, as I say. I think we picked up a set of goggles with an air unit for $100. Yes, they don't make it anymore, but for now it seems that it's not a struggle to get stuff second hand. The goggles are the comfiest out of any of the DJI goggles with the upgraded DJI foam. The screen is huge and immersive compared to the Goggles 2 and the Goggles 3. The camera is still the best for FPV in terms of dynamic range and low light, and I put that over O3 and O4 as well. You don't need a flight controller to get full power out of O2 either, which is good for FPV with planes and also RC cars. And I do think it's fair to now compare DJI O2 to these budget systems. You would expect with 7 years of development, Artlynk and Ascent would at least be able to match O2, but for now they are not. Artlink's bitrate readout seems to start at 21 megabit and then goes down to 16 megabit and never recovers back to 21. Then it goes down to 11 megabit, and then at 6 megabit is where you start getting the jerky video around about there, but it's not clear. You don't have numbers in between those steps, which is unusual. And you can't read the bitrate reading on the goggles anyway because the text is just too small. Ascent seems to work all the way down to 0.5 megabit. Now, whether it's actually doing that is another question, but it's easier to see when you are losing your video signal because you lose the side of the video. You can't really see the bitrate reading any clearer, but what it does with the video feed is much more clearer than Artlynk. Artlynk gives you the unique option of being able to select the DVR bitrate from 8 megabits up to 24 megabits. Now, you actually can't change the bitrate of the video feed. That seems to be stuck with a maximum of 21 megabits. So for all of these flights so far, I've set the Artlynk's DVR to 24 megabit and the Ascent's DVR is around 40 megabit. But given that Artlynk starts at around 21 megabit and then seems to drop to 16 megabit and never recovers to higher than that, the 24 megabit DVR is overkill. It comes with 8 megabit set as standard, and you can see a big drop off in the DVR quality when it's set to that. You can also set it to 16 megabit, which is probably the best setting from my testing. There is actually a slight difference in the FPV performance dropping the quality of the DVR, which is unusual. You get slightly less jerkiness at the end of its range setting the DVR to 8 megabit, but it's not by much. And the playback of the DVR in general on a computer needs to be re-encoded using Handbrake. It seems that there is some sort of codec issue, whereas the Cadex DVR seems to play back fine. There's no Betaflight OSD file created on the Artlynk goggles, whereas Cadex already have that covered and working, so you can use the sneaky FPV OSD tool to get the Betaflight overlay working on your videos. Artlynk still needs much better low signal handling to give you any kind of confidence in its range, unless you are flying in an open field and not flying behind any objects. For the moment, these budget video systems give me some concern. Cadex have Ascent, Beta FPV has Artlynk, and HLRC have announced their version of it. It's looking like, rather than before, where DJI had their system and Walksnail had Avatar, and the bind and fly manufacturers came out with a model that supported either of those or an analog version, we have a situation where each bind and fly manufacturer might have their own FPV HD video system. So if you want a Beta FPV bind and fly model, you have to get Artlynk gear. If you want an HLRC model, you have to get their system. So who's next? iFlight? GEP-RC? I really hope it doesn't come to this, because if history tells us anything, FPV thrives when we are all on the same page. It's a niche hobby in the first place, so for us to be divided over different systems is not a good thing for it. This hobby was at its peak of popularity when all we had for a video system was analog, and that's not because it was the best. The same goes for the control system. For the most part, we are using Express LRS because it's cheap, open source, and has a solid development path with no close competitor, certainly price-wise. And the same can be said for Betaflight. But giving newbies multiple video systems that perform very similar causes confusion for beginners specifically, and division amongst hobbyists. I really do hope one of these cheap video systems becomes the Express LRS of the video system world, which would solve the problem. But what we have is an increasing number of similar performing systems on the horizon. If I were to rank these video systems, all I can say is that DJI is still by far the best. I know around the world that is not the option for anyone, but here I would put O2 first for the FPV experience and the second-hand price of it, then O4 and O3, with O4 having the best range and onboard recording capability, and O3 having the best goggle compatibility. O3 works with the Goggles 2, the Goggles 3, but more importantly, the V2 goggles, which are my personal favourite. Then after that would be Walksnail Avatar, with its more powerful VTXs and multiple onboard recording options. And then these two budget options, and it's actually difficult to put those in order because it depends what you favour. Do you want a slightly better image quality but bad low signal handling? Or do you want an image that's not quite as good but it degrades in a way that you can understand and know where the limit is? And also, Cadex is a dedicated FPV video system company. They have previous of releasing a pretty useless Avatar HD FPV video system and over time making it usable. Beta FPV don't have the history of that yet. Then you can say Cadex have released a standalone VRX for Ascent at the cost of about 70 quid. You will need to attach goggles to that, and a decent pair of goggles could cost you $200 to $300, at which point the Avatar V1 and the Goggles X is that price anyway, with better VTX and camera options. Beta FPV Artlynk has no current plans for a standalone VRX that I'm aware of, or a more powerful video transmitter. But again, if they released a VRX, just like Ascent, you would have to add the price of a pair of decent goggles onto that. And if they do release a cost-effective, more powerful VTX, your only saving is in the VTX. And for some people, I can see that being important, but it needs to perform as good as the alternatives. The reality is, if both of these budget goggles from Cadex FPV and Beta FPV were good enough, then the budget package makes a lot of sense. And that's the problem. The goggles are very uncomfortable to wear and you don't get a great image through them. So people are talking about, I hope they release a VRX, at which point the price point goes up. So there you go, that's my comparison between Artlynk and Ascent. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, cheers.